Imagine, just for a second, that your body isn't actually just biology.
Right.
Like, forget the bones, the muscles, the blood, just for a moment.
Right.
Instead, imagine it as this high-tech piece of hardware, like a motherboard.
The motherboard, yeah.
And running through that circuit board is the actual electricity of your consciousness.
It's a really compelling metaphor, honestly, because if the wiring is soldered correctly, the current flows, the lights stay on, and the software runs smoothly.
Exactly.
But if a circuit blows or a wire gets crossed somewhere,
the system crashes.
The whole system crashes.
And usually, when we talk about crashing, whether that's getting sick or hitting a wall in life or just total burnout, we go to a doctor for the hardware.
Right, or a therapist for the software.
Exactly. But today, we're doing a deep dive into a source that says you actually can't separate them. You have to look at the schematic as one integrated system. We're jumping into a really fascinating text called The Tree of Life, a circuit board for human awakening.
By David Quigley.
Right. And it's wild. The mission today is to decode this concept of spiritual anatomy and understand how he argues we can basically reprogram our internal wiring.
To move from just physical survival to what he calls divine awakening. And Quigley is, he's quite a character to be writing a user manual for the human body.
He really is.
He's the founder of the Alchemy Institute of Hypnosis, but he opens this text by basically putting on a wizard's hat.
Literally.
Yeah, he refers to himself quite seriously as a wizard.
I love that energy. I really do. But it also signals to you, the listener, that we are definitely going off the beaten path here. He's not talking about like magic wands, right?
No.
He's talking about synthesis.
Exactly. He's talking about the magic of synthesizing two ancient systems that, historically speaking, have almost nothing to do with each other.
Right.
He takes Jewish Kabbalah and Indian Tantra, and he basically just smashes them together.
Which is a bold move. You have Jewish mystics in one corner and Hindu yogis in the other. They are thousands of miles apart, totally different cultures.
And Quigley stands in the middle and says, look at the maps. They're describing the exact same territory.
It's a huge aha moment.
It is. His premise is that if you take the 10 spheres of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, which is this ancient diagram of how divine energy moves, and you superimpose it over the human body.
It lines up perfectly with the 7 chakras of yoga.
Perfectly.
So for you listening and trying to visualize this, imagine a diagram of the human body. Now overlay a geometric pattern of 10 circles connected by lines.
Right.
Some are right down the center, some are on the left, some are on the right.
And Quigley argues that this isn't just some abstract philosophy, it's a literal repair manual.
A repair manual for us.
Yeah, he believes we are all running on corrupted software, like glitchy code implanted by society and trauma. And this map is how you debug the system to get to that divine awakening.
But to understand the repair manual, Quigley says we first have to understand how the machine got broken in the first place.
Right, and he goes way back.
Way back. He doesn't start with your childhood or your parents. He goes all the way back to the factory settings, the Garden of Eden.
This is honestly one of the most entertaining but also highly critical parts of the text.
Yeah.
Quigley absolutely roasts the traditional interpretation of Genesis.
He really does not hold back.
Not at all. He sees the official narrative, Adam made from river mud, Eve made from a rib, as the first major software virus.
The rib thing in particular seems to really annoy him.
Oh, it drives him crazy.
He treats it almost like this ridiculous medical impossibility that we've all just collectively accepted.
He does look at it strictly as a hypnotherapist. He asks, if this were our true origin story, wouldn't we see it reflected in our psychology?
Right.
He jokes that in 40 years of doing deep trance therapy, no client has ever come to him and said, Doc, I have these deep-seated abandonment issues because my father molded me out of river mud.
Or I have terrible lower back pain because I was extracted from a rib cage.
Exactly. He even cracks a joke about how absurd it would be if churches hosted a Father's Day Honor the Ribs that formed you potluck.
I'd go for the barbecue, but I definitely see his point. It's a creation myth that completely bypasses the womb.
That is the absolute crux of his argument. It bypasses the feminine. Quigley argues that this story was a patriarchal fabrication designed specifically to sideline women.
To make them an afterthought.
Right. By making the man the source of life and the woman just a spare part, you create this profound psychological disconnect from the feminine and from the body itself. And we should be clear, we are just presenting his interpretation here.
Of course.
Yeah.
We're just looking at how he maps this out. Because he says that disconnect is where the wiring starts to fray.
Exactly.
And then there's the fall, the apple, the snake. Quigley flips this entirely on its head, too.
He takes a very Gnostic approach here.
Can you explain that a bit for anyone not familiar?
Sure. So Gnosticism was an early religious movement that often acted like the director's cut of the Bible. They tended to flip the villains and the heroes.
Right.
So in Quigley's view, the serpent isn't the bad guy at all. The serpent represents the mother goddess or the Kundalini energy, and she's offering wisdom.
So the fruit wasn't a sin.
No, it was a download. It was a necessary wake-up call. Quigley points out a specific detail in the text that people almost always miss. There were 2 trees in the center of the garden.
The tree of knowledge and the tree of life.
Yes. Eating from the tree of knowledge gave us self-awareness. We realized we were naked. We developed egos.
And Yahweh, the God figure in this specific interpretation, is portrayed less like a loving father and more like a jealous gatekeeper.
That's how Quigley reads it. He highlights the verse where God basically says, uh-oh, the humans have become like one of us, knowing good and evil. We better kick them out before they eat from the tree of life and live forever.
So the argument he's making is that we got the awareness, we know we're naked, we have egos, but we were cut off from the tree of life.
Which represents our divine power and our vitality. We were literally kicked out of the garden of the body. So now we're running on an operating system that fundamentally fears the body and suppresses the feminine. And Quigley's tree of life system is the patch code to fix it.
It's how we plug back into the mainframe.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the actual schematics.
Let's do it.
We're going to climb this tree from the bottom up, right? Like the energy rising in the body.
Correct. We start at the very base, the root.
So anatomically speaking, we're talking about the base of the spine, the legs, and, well, the rectum.
We are. This is the sphere called Malkuth in Kabbalah, or the first chakra in yoga. It represents the earth element. This is our direct interface with physical reality.
Survival, money, shelter.
Exactly. And Quigley gets very blunt here. He links this energy center directly to our ability to hold on and our ability to poop.
He really doesn't mince words.
He does not. This sphere governs our ability to be grounded, but also our ability to let go. When this circuit is blocked, you get what traditional psychology calls the anal retentive personality.
But Quigley uses a slightly more colloquial term.
He calls them assholes.
He does. And he insists he's using it as a strict technical term.
He really does. He says if you look at the energy of someone who is deeply greedy, constipated, holding on to resentment, refusing to spend money, physically tight.
Their sphincter is literally locked.
Yes. The circuit is fried in the closed position. It's the person who just cannot release control.
And Quigley says you can't just talk this kind of person into relaxing, right? You can't logic them out of it.
No, you have to use the body to fix the body.
He suggests some pretty intense therapies for this, like rock climbing.
Which sounds completely counterintuitive for someone who is already tight and scared.
Right, sending a terrified, controlling person up a cliff face.
But think about it from an energy perspective. You cannot be up in your head worrying about your stock portfolio or your grudge against your neighbor when you are hanging off a piece of granite by your fingertips.
Because if you let your mind wander for a second, you fall.
Exactly. Rock climbing forces your consciousness purely into your hands and feet. It forces an immediate, undeniable connection with the earth.
It's survival-level grounding.
It totally bypasses the neurotic mind and forces the root system to reboot.
That actually makes total sense. It's shock therapy for the soul.
Okay, so we've grounded ourselves. The system is booted up. We move up to the belly, the Sacral Chakra.
This is the sphere called Yesod, the foundation. Quigley calls it the moon.
And anatomically, we are looking at the reproductive organs, but also the intestines. The gut.
The gut feeling, the place where we digest. And Quigley makes a really profound link here. The intestines are where we extract physical nutrients from our food.
Right.
Energetically, this center is where we digest love, belonging, and emotional security.
This was the synthesis that really clicked for me when reading this. He argues that if you didn't get that nutrition, that love and safety from your family growing up, the physical machinery actually breaks.
You get digestive issues, IBS, cramps, but psychologically, you get what he calls a black hole.
A void.
Yeah. If that moon center is empty because you didn't feel you belonged, you have a literal void in your gut. And human beings are desperate to fill voids. We fill it with pizza, alcohol, sugar, shopping.
Exactly. Quigley traces the root of addiction directly to this specific malfunction in the spiritual anatomy. And this is where he heavily critiques Freud.
Because of the timeline.
Yeah, he says Freud's talking cure takes years and years because you cannot analyze a void. You can't analyze hunger. You have to feed it.
But this is the tricky part for me. If you're listening to this and you're 40 years old, you can't go back in a time machine and get your parents to love you differently.
No, you can't. So Quigley says you have to hack the system. You have to build inner parents.
This is the wizard part coming out again. Is this just pretending?
It's way deeper than pretending. He guides clients to use deep self-hypnosis to visualize the Tree of Life architecture and literally install a new mother and father.
You're creating an internal nurturing force.
Yes, a force that feeds that moon center exactly what it missed.
I guess from a modern neuroscience perspective, we know the brain doesn't always know the difference between a highly vivid visualization and physical reality.
That is the entire key to the hack. If you can simulate the feeling of unconditional love and safety internally, the gut relaxes, the digestion improves.
And the craving for the filler, the drugs, or the food diminishes. You are rewriting the history file of your own body.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've stabilized the base, we've fed the inner child. Now the current moves up to the solar plexus. This is the power center.
The third chakra. And this is where the map gets visually a little more complex. Up until now, we've basically been climbing a straight ladder. But here, the Tree of Life splits.
So you have a central column, but you also have a right pillar and a left pillar.
Right. So we aren't just moving up anymore, we're balancing side to side. The solar plexus is about building a healthy ego.
And he reclaims that word, ego.
He does. He says we need a strong identity to function in the world. And to build that, you need to balance two opposing forces, Hod on the right and Netzach on the left. Or, as he simplifies it, Mercury and Venus.
Mercury is the mind, right? The messenger.
Mercury is the intellect, the analyzer, the scientist. Anatomically, he links it to the liver.
Because the liver filters toxins.
Exactly. Just as the liver breaks down physical toxins and filters the blood, the mercurial mind separates truth from falsehood. It processes data and keeps us safe from lies.
And Venus on the left side?
Venus is the pancreas. She produces the sweetness of life. This is social grace, empathy, artistic appreciation, human connection.
So a truly healthy human has both running in tandem, a sharp, discerning mind, and a sweet, empathetic demeanor.
But Quigley spends a lot of time on the shadow versions of these because we all know people who are totally lopsided.
Oh, absolutely.
If you have too much Mercury and no Venus, meaning you are all analysis and no human connection, you get what Quigley calls Mercury on meth.
Which is a terrifying but incredibly vivid image.
It's severe paranoia. It's the conspiracy theorist who can connect every single data point on a corkboard, but can't connect with a human being in real life.
The liver becomes toxic with suspicion.
Yes. They are technically right about the facts, maybe, but they are entirely alone.
And the flip side of that, Venus on cocaine.
That's narcissism. It's the constant, frantic demand for social validation. Look at me, love me, validate me.
But without the analytical grounding of truth.
Right, and it inevitably becomes resentful and self-absorbed.
So the alchemical union, which is the goal of this level, is to get the scientist and the artist in your body to actually collaborate.
And when they do collaborate, that balanced energy creates a stable platform for the next big leap up to the center of the chest, the heart.
The sun, Tiferet.
The sun is the perfect metaphor here. Quigley asks this great question. And does the sun wake up in the morning and say, I'm not going to shine on Steve today because Steve was rude to me yesterday?
No. The sun shines because it's a giant ball of nuclear fusion. It literally can't help but shine.
That is the exact shift Quigley wants us to make. The lower centers we just talked about are transactional. I'll love you if you love me. I'll give you security if you give me money.
But the heart center is radiant. It shines because that is its nature.
He ties this very specifically to physical health, too. He talks about heart attacks not just as plumbing problems with cholesterol, but as energetic explosions.
Explosions of blocked resentment.
Yes. Or lung issues, like asthma or pneumonia, relating deeply to unspoken grief and despair. The heart and lungs circulate the vital fluids. If you cut off the flow of love, either giving or receiving, you are literally cutting off your own circulation.
So if your solar plexus is balanced, meaning you really know who you are and you have that strong ego, you can afford to be a sun. You don't need other people to constantly validate you.
Exactly. You become the source of the energy, rather than a vampire sucking energy from everyone else.
Okay, moving up to the throat. But Quigley includes the arms and shoulders in this circuit, which I thought was a really interesting choice. Usually people just think voice when they think throat chakra.
It makes perfect sense if you think about it, though. The throat is for speaking, but the arms are for doing. This whole center is about expression and action in the world.
Again, we have those two pillars, the right shoulder and the left shoulder.
On the right, we have Mars, the warrior.
Discipline, strength, the ability to defend your boundaries. Quigley calls it the rod of correction.
And on the left side,
He corrects the traditional Kabbalah here, right?
he does. Usually, this is Jupiter in traditional texts, but he identifies it as Ma'at, the Egyptian goddess of justice and mercy.
So you have the warrior or force on one side and the goddess or mercy on the other. And you absolutely need both.
Desperately. And this is where Quigley drops what I think is one of the most important insights in the entire book, the trap of toxic forgiveness.
This part gave me chills. It runs so counter to what you're usually told in spiritual or self-help circles. Tell us about the client with arthritis.
So he treats this woman with severe rheumatoid arthritis. Her joints are massively inflamed and painful, and in trance, she uncovers horrific abuse by her father from when she was a child.
But she refuses to get angry at him.
She completely refuses
Yeah.
because she's spiritual.
Right. She keeps saying things like, anger is a low vibration. I have to forgive him. I want to be a higher being.
And meanwhile, her physical body is literally attacking itself.
Because the rage has nowhere to go. It's turning inward and burning her joints.
Exactly. Quigley is brutally honest with her in the session. He tells her that her abusive father would probably have a specific name for her brand of high-vibration spirituality.
A sucker.
Sucker. It sounds incredibly harsh, but it broke the trance she was in. She needed to access her Mars. She needed the warrior energy.
Quigley argues that you cannot have true mercy, true Ma'at, unless you first have the capacity for force.
Otherwise, your forgiveness isn't a choice at all. It's just submission.
That is such a huge distinction. Forgiveness is only real if you are strong enough to punish, but you actively choose not to.
Exactly. You need the rod of correction in one hand to hold the boundary so the other hand can safely offer mercy. If you only have mercy, you just get walked on.
And if you only have Mars, you become the abuser.
Right. Balancing them opens the throat chakra. It gives you the actual ability to speak your truth without fear.
Okay, finally we reach the top of the ladder. The head centers. The third eye.
This is the command center. Biologically, the pineal gland. And here, Quigley really geeks out on the history of Kabbalah.
He notes that 10th century mystics were mapping the brain hemispheres 1,000 years before we had MRI machines.
It's wild. They place the feminine and masculine energies on specific sides of the head.
They placed Bina, the Great Mother, the ocean, the intuition, on the right side of the brain.
And Chakma, the Sky Father, the flash of logical insight, on the left.
Which maps perfectly to what modern science knows about right brain creativity and left brain analysis.
Quigley's point here is that for most of us, the parents living in our head, those voices that run our internal monologue all day, they are not these divine figures.
No, they're usually echoes of our biological parents or strict teachers or critics.
The jeering section.
Right. The voice that says, you're stupid, you're fat, you'll never make it. That is corrupted software running in the head center.
So the ultimate goal of the deep dive into this text is to fire the jeering section.
And hire a cheering section.
Exactly. This brings the whole system together. You use the Tree of Life architecture to actively install a divine mother and a divine father in your brain.
So when you have a crazy creative idea, that's the mother energy. And the father energy doesn't say, that's stupid. It says, here is a practical plan to make that happen.
And when you have a rigid logical plan, the father energy, the mother adds the nuance and the emotional connection to actually make it work with other human beings. The hemispheres stop fighting and they start dancing.
It's a full system reboot. And Quigley claims this works. He's not just theorizing from an armchair here.
No, his personal story is the ultimate proof of concept for this book. At age 27, he was in a wheelchair. He had chronic fatigue. He was riddled with arthritis, massive food sensitivities. His circuit board was completely fried.
And by using this exact system, this blend of Kabbalah, Tantra, and self-hypnosis, he rewired his own hardware.
At 70 years old, he describes himself as a dancer, a martial artist, a mountaineer, and a concert pianist.
I mean, going from a wheelchair to mountaineering is a pretty solid testimonial for fixing your wiring.
It reinforces his final takeaway perfectly. The Tree of Life isn't a dusty chart to just study in a library. It's a tool to use.
As he puts it, use it or lose it.
The body is constantly listening to the software we are running, every second of the day.
It really makes you rethink what health actually is. We treat the body like a car. Change the oil, rotate the tires, eat your vegetables.
But maybe we need to be checking the code. If you are running Guilt 1.0 or Unexpressed Rage 95, the hardware is going to break down.
It doesn't matter how much kale you eat or how many miles you run if the code is toxic.
Exactly.
So here's a thought for you to take away, listening right now. If your body really is a circuit board wired by your past, who programmed it?
We tend to think our inner voice is just us. But Quigley argues it's often just a recording left by someone else.
And recordings can be taped over. Think about the physical symptoms you deal with. The tight stomach, the stiff shoulders, the random headaches. What if those aren't just random physical pains?
What if they are literal error messages from a very specific part of your operating system?
And what would actually happen if you stopped trying to just treat the pain and started rewriting the code? It might just light up your whole grid.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Check your wiring, everyone.
See you next time.